and this topic is about strengthening, right? So, as I told, this subject is why this subject is important, because this subject finally, if we conclude this subject, will at the end will get that we can increase the strength of our metallic materials, right? Because since we are metallurgists, right? We people are metallurgists, right? So we basically deals with metals and alloys. We don't bother about ceramics and polymers, right? But if I talk about metallurgical and materials engineering, then under materials, polymers and ceramics will come, right? And composites also come, right? But since we are basically metallurgists, so we basically concern with the properties of metals and properties of alloys, right? And we also know that we never use metals. We basically use alloys for our application because of superior properties. Right? The most important property in materials are this strength. Right? Basically, which kind of strength? Tensile or yield. Right? Already you have seen that from the stress versus strain of tensile strength and yield strength. Right? Anybody remember what is yield strength? Sorry, can you speak louder? Plastically. Points means what you want to say. Don't say points, but that is leaving some value.
Yield stress.
The stress at which the plastic deformation initiates, or there is the onset of plastic deformation. Because below that stress, deformation will be elastic, non-permanent. But at yield stress, that stress will start the permanent deformation. Or if the stress will be more than that, permanent deformation will occur. But if you increase the stress further, it will fail. It will become two part. Fracture or rupture. Right? Anyway, what is ultimate tensile strength? Sorry. Yeah, you can say like that. Or you can say ultimate tensile strength is the maximum strength the material can withstand before failure. See, failure doesn't mean fracture. This is a very interesting thing. People get confused. Failure means it doesn't mean fracture. Fracture means a single material become two parts, for example, or multiple parts. Right? It gets separated into multiple parts. Right? That is fracture. Failure means where the necking is getting started. Metal is getting failed. Why? Because it cannot withstand further load. So it is getting failed. That means after UTS, necking starts. That point is the failure point. Failure is starting from that part. Because material cannot withstand your load further. Right? Suppose PC breeze, for example. A lot of trucks will be together, for example, at a time. Maybe the breeze may bend. It will not break into two parts. It may bend. So that is failure. You understand? If it will become two parts or completely it will fail, like it will become completely 2-3 parts, complete collapse, it is a fracture. Right? So it should not be confused between failure and fracture. Right? You understand my point? So when necking starts, that is a failure. Failure is getting started in the material. Anyways, so I'll talk about first metal. That means you have a pure metal and we do not use pure metals. So we increase the strength, then only we can use the metals, right? So basically we make alloys. That's right. That is one of the part. Okay, I would like to say, and one interesting point I have written, polycrystalline, right? If you remember, the metals, the alloys which we use are never single crystals. They are basically polycrystals. Poly means many, crystals means grains or crystals. Lot of grains will be there, right? You remember those things? Yes. But in certain application we are using single crystal also. Which application? Anybody remember?
Turbine blades.
Turbine blades, where temperature is very high, extremely high, above 600 or above 700 or like above 1000 degree also. Right? So obviously there is a reason why we are using single crystal in that condition. Turbine blades means, you understand, that means suppose hot gases are, you are bombarding hot gases on the turbine blades. It will rotate. It will rotate means you can generate electricity. Right? Obviously you can generate electricity. You are providing steams on the turbine blades. It will rotate again. You can generate electricity. Because turbine blades are connected with the generators. Right? It will generate electricity. Right? Okay, anyways, so we are talking about metals. Now I want to talk about how you can increase the strength of the metal. So first point what you can do is just carefully look. This is polycrystalline. So what you need to do, you can make it single crystal. That is the simple thing you can do. Right? So I can write convert it into single crystal. It is okay. I can use 2 pages for example. So suppose this is your initial metal. You understood what are these?
Grains.
Lot of grains. Suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 number of grains are there. It is a polycrystalline metal, but this is a metal, right? And if you do like this, by any means, if you do like this, you can see there is no grain boundaries. A single grain is present, a single crystal, right? So convert polycrystal metals to single crystal. You will increase the strength to a very large extent, right? Like suppose the strength is in MPa. MPa means megapascal, right? That will become GPa. You can understand, gigapascal. So you can imagine just by converting polycrystalline metals to single crystal, you can increase the strength up to very high level. GPa means like 1000 MPa is equal to 1 GPa. You can imagine how strength is increasing. Tremendously, it is increasing to a very high limit. This is single crystal. Can anybody guess why this is happening? Just think of it. The extra lies behind the grain.
Grain boundary.
Grain boundary is a defect. Very good. Which kind of defect? It comes under which kind? 0 dimensional, 1 dimensional, 2, 3. 1. It is a surface defect or line defect?
Surface defect.
Surface defect are
2 dimensional.
0 means vacancy and interstitials, right? 1 means dislocation, linear, plane, or surface. Anyway, so you understood the point is this is polycrystal, but this is single crystal. So simple answer is why the strength has increased, because you have eliminated all the grain boundaries. There is no grain boundary, and grain boundary is a defect. So that means single crystal is completely defect free. So if something is defect free, it is good always. You understand the point, right? So that is completely defect free, no defects. But soon you will also see this defect also helps in strengthening.
Yes.
I will tell you about that. Right? Okay, this is fine. So you can easily write. I am not writing, or you can write. Sometimes these are called whiskers technically. Whiskers. Whiskers means single crystal. They have high aspect ratio. You also can write. Whiskers have high aspect ratio. Aspect ratio means in one dimension it will be longer, in another dimension it will be shorter. Length by width, for example, you are taking, it will be very high. Aspect ratio, aspect ratio. Aspect ratio means length by width, you can say. In one dimension it will be longer. Suppose this is having high aspect ratio. This is a material having high. You can see the length is very high, but the thickness is low. Right? High aspect ratio, basically. And these are defect free. Defect free means there will be no crystalline defects. There will be no dislocations, no grain boundaries, nothing will be there. No vacancies, for example. It is completely an ideal condition. Right? But there is a problem. Anybody guess what is the problem with this? Problem? The processing cost will be very high. That's why we don't prefer to make any single crystal for every material. Otherwise, it is very easy. You convert, you delete all the defects, it will become defect free and it will give you very high strength. But in the real situation, we never do. This is done for certain applications where money is not important, like turbine blades. If you suppose jet engine or your aeroplane engine, if you are bothering about money and you are not using single crystal, what will happen? You understand? It will collapse in the air only. People will die. Right? We cannot play with life, right? But money is not important. So in that condition, you can convert polycrystal into single crystals. It's okay. So this is defect free. That's why it has maximum strength. Okay, this is done. The next, this is done. The next one is what we can do. If you remember this one,
Heat treatment.
heat treatment. Right? But there is certain limitations. There is certain limitations. Limitations means, do you think if you give heat treatment to any metals, it will give you benefit? Is it true? Just imagine. The actual answer is no. Suppose you are dealing with iron, you are dealing with copper. If you give heat treatment to the iron, it will give you benefit. But if you give heat treatment to the copper, it will not give you benefit. Why? Any guesses? Iron is showing some interesting phenomena. At what?
Right.
Different temperature, very good, different phases. You are getting a point. Iron shows different transformation at different temperatures. Somewhere it is BCC, FCC, again BCC, right? Somewhere it is alpha ferrite, somewhere it is austenite, right? So this kind of transformation is showing at different temperature. So due to that only, what can happen? You can modify the structure, or you can do what? You can increase the, or you can decrease the size of the grain form, right? But in case of copper, copper is not showing any kind of transformation. Copper is FCC at room temperature. Up to melting point, it is FCC. There is no transformation in copper. For aluminium, you take pure aluminium, for example. Pure aluminium at room temperature is FCC. Again, you take it to different temperature, to up to melting point. It remains in FCC. So there is no phase transformation in copper, aluminium, or many metals. But few metals show allotropic transformation. They show different phases at different temperature. So by that, you can get benefit. Two benefits you will get. One, I told what? You can get, you can what? You can reduce the what? Grain size. You remember that? If you reduce the grain size, the strength will be more. Finer grain material have higher strength, coarser grain material have low strength. Or coarser grain materials means more number of grains will be there. Finer grain materials is? No, I am asking you. That is finer grain materials is more number of grains, more number of grain boundaries, right? A coarser means less number of grains but bigger grains. Right? So this is one part. Another part I told you can do transformations. Like, anybody remember? In case of steel, gamma becomes what?
Martensite, vanite.
Sometimes it becomes
Vanite.
These are very strong microstructures. They have very high hardness strength. Right? I am giving an example. That means your gamma is FCC. Your martensite is, suppose, pure iron, it is BCC. You can see there is a transformation. But if carbon will be there, then it becomes BCD. You have to remember that. Pure iron will become martensite, it is BCC. But if you have steels, then it will become BCD. Body center petrol. Okay, anyways, you understood my point? So by giving heat treatment, what you can do? You can reduce the grain size. You can also do some transformations, and those transformation products may have high strength. Is it okay with everybody? Right? That means we are converting initial structure into some new structure, and those new structure are having good strength compared to initial structure strength, right? Or we can, if initial structure is of coarser grain, we can make it finer grain by heat treatments. So this is done. So this is one part, this is that one part, right? Okay. So now, do you want me to draw it? I think you got it. Huh? Anyway. Then next one is. Okay, the question is, okay, fine. Again, the question is how? Suppose this one you understood. Fine. This is very hard and brittle. Basically hard. You can write hard and hard phase or hard microstructure. This is soft, for example. That's why then, and reducing grain size means what I can write for this? More number of what?
Grains.
Anybody remember this? More number of obstacles are present. Oh, what are obstacles?
Grain boundaries.
Grain boundaries. To what? To dislocation. Right? That is the concept. Why we are studying dislocations? Because dislocations move when you apply load on the material. Dislocations move. Once dislocations start moving, slip is happening. That means material is deforming plastically. More deformation, it will elevate more and more and more. But if dislocation will stop, that means it will provide more strength to the material. It is okay? So who will provide strength? Grain boundaries. Finer grain means more number of grain boundaries. More number of obstacles. More is the strength. Simple concept. You understood my point? But bigger grain means less number of grain boundaries. So less obstacles. Is it okay? Or any confusion? Okay, if you have any confusion, you can just have a look. This is suppose these are only 2-3 grains. Now I make it finer. Okay, I make it finer. Now suppose I have a dislocation over here. Yes. See, I have a dislocation. Suppose, okay, fine. I have a dislocation over here. You remember how dislocation I represent? Either inverted T or T. Basically, that is S dislocation. This is what? Inverted T. Inverted T means what? Extra half of plane atom is above in the crystal or below in the crystal? Below, very good, below. Because extra half plane, see, this is the extra half plane of atom, right? So bottom part will be the dislocation line, but this is the extra half plane of atom, right? So you can see, if it will be just T, that means extra plane atom is at the top, right? Or bottom.
Bottom right.
This one is inverted T. It means your extra half plane of atom is the top, right? And that is the distribution line. This is your extra. This one is the extra half plane of atom, and this is the distribution line. Right? If I make it like this now, so that means it is at the bottom, and this one is the dislocation line. It is okay anyway. So now you can see this one want to move in the crystal. Here, suppose I have I have a dislocation over here, right? So dislocation, how it will move? It will move like this. You can see it has to cross only one barrier. But here you can see how many barriers it has to cross. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? 6 number barrier it has to cross in the second case. Yes or no? Let's have a look. This will come to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and finally it will reach to the surface. It's okay. But here only one grain boundary. So this is one grain boundary. But this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 numbers of grain boundary. Okay. So more is the obstacles in the finer grain material. But in coarser grain material we have less obstacles. So strength will be more in finer grain materials, right? That is the reason. So more you make it finer, more it will strength. Even more it will be the obstacles. It is okay? Right? So this is clearly showing that defects also helps to increase the strength. Right? You understand my point? Grain boundary is a defect. But still if you are increasing the grain boundaries, the strength is going to increase. Yes or no? So sometimes questions may be like this. Justify how lattice defects or lattice imperfections are good for our material. You can write it. Let's say example, if you grain boundary, you can give example of this. Right? Okay. So this is one. But another interesting point. Compare this one with this one. Can you guess which one will be having more strength? Single crystal and crystal with a lot of grain boundaries. Single crystal again. You have to remember that. That simply means if a material is completely defect free. Defect free means I am talking about lattice defects. You should understand. Not all other defects. if it will be completely free from lattice defect, it is completely ideal condition, it will provide you maximum strength. Second case is what? Second case is if it has less number of defects, it is weak. But if it has lot of defects, again the strength increases. So this is the situation. You understood my point? Either you make it single crystal or you add more number of defects. You can do two things, right? Either you eliminate all the defects to make it single crystal, or you can do what? You can add more defects into the material. Like you can add more number of grain boundaries. The strength will become more, but this will be inexpensive. Second one is inexpensive, just by giving it treatment. Done. No processing is required much. Very less amount of money will be required for this. Electricity. Anyways, so this is fine, I think. Done. Oh, sorry. Shall I erase this one? Next one is next one will be so now you can do what? Alloying, right? It is a pure metal. Now you are doing alloying. Alloying means you are adding some other alloying elements, right? Fine. Suppose you have pure iron, you can add chromium, you can add some vanadium, you can add some manganese, you can add anything into it. You can add some carbon, right? So by alloying, we can also increase the strength. Anybody remember how? It will form what? Solid solution. It is not a pure thing, right? So the alloying elements will go into the material and become solid solution, right? So one is solid, and you remember two types: interstitial solid solution and substitutional solid solution, right? And anybody remember how the strength will increase by forming any solid solutions?
So the distortion
will be there. Distortion. The lattice, the parent lattice, that means the lattice of the pure metal will get distorted. Right? Why? Because the alloying element atom size is different to the parent atom size, right? It will create compressive strength fields or tension strength fields. Very good, you remember that. Excellent. You people understood? Because size of the atom of the alloying element will be different from the pure metal. So if it will go into the pure metal lattice, it will make some strength. A strain will generate. Distortion will be generated. Either it push or it will pull. Right? So those strain fields will interact with the dislocation strain field. If you remember dislocation, I have also strain fields. One top part is suppose compression, bottom part will be in tension. You remember that? Yes or no? Yes. You can check it otherwise. The strain field in the dislocation. If extra half plane of atom is at the top, that means top part will be in compression, bottom part will be in tension. Just have a look. Right? They create distortion. Okay, fine. It is okay? You got the answer, right? So dislocation wants to move and it has a strain field on the top and bottom. That strain field will start interacting with the strain field created by the solute atoms, right? It is okay? So this kind of strengthening is called solid solution strengthening, I told you, right? Anybody remember in between substitutional solid solution strengthening and interstitial solid solution strengthening, which one will be more? Interstitial, very good. Why? Can you justify that? Give me an example of steel. Because distortion will be more in case of interstitial solid solution. Why? Suppose you are adding carbon into iron, right? Carbon will go into which side? Octahedral void. And size of the octahedral void is smaller compared to carbon atom size. So it is going like intentionally going into that. So it will create more distortion. But substitutional alloying element will come and sit on the lattice point. It will substitute the parent atom and it will sit. So there will be no much distortion. So distortion created by the interstitial solid solution is more. Right? You understand my point? So more is the distortion of lattice, more is the strength in the lattice. That is a simple concept. Yes or no? Right? So this is one. Anything else will happen if you add alloying element? It will always form solid solution. Or it will form compound. Very good. Structure of alloy, right? It also forms compounds. So if how it will form compound? Anybody remember? If there is a more electronegativity difference between the parent atoms and the alloying element atoms, it will react and it will form a compound, right? So you can write. So by alloying additions, it may form this kind of thing or it may form compounds. So you can write some examples. You can write carbides, nitrides, carbonitrides, and you can also write some intermetallic phases. Intermetallics. Intermetallics. So these are the things will form. These are compounds. Carbides means there is a compound between carbon and the pure metals or any alloying elements. You understand the point? Suppose, I'm giving an example. Suppose you have a steel and that steel contains some niobium, Nb, niobium, right? Niobium is an alloying element. So and you have carbon. So niobium will react with carbon to form niobium carbide, right? Similarly, niobium may react with nitrogen to form nitrate, niobium nitrate. Similarly, you have vanadium, for example. Vanadium react with carbon to form vanadium carbide. Vanadium also reacts with niobium to form vanadium nitrides. So these carbides, these nitrides are very strong. They are very hard and brittle. But steel is ductile. But these carbides, nitrides are stronger and harder. So if you deform the metal, what will happen? Dislocation will move. But why dislocation is moving? That at a point will come when it will interact with these niobium carbides. It interacts with these vanadium carbides, nitrides. So it will stop. Right? It will easily move in the steel, no problem. But it will meet a carbide, it will meet a nitride, it will stop. It cannot move. So that means I am saying these carbides, nitrides, these carbonitrides are obstacles again to what? Dislocations. You understand my point? If dislocation cannot move, strength will be more. If dislocation will move easily, ductility is high. It is okay now? So these are again obstacles. And intermetallics means maybe two metals will react to form a compound. If you remember, I give you some examples. Ni3A, right? Nickel and aluminium. We want to make a super alloy of nickel, right? So we are intentionally adding an alloying element that is aluminium. So aluminium is reacting with nickel to form Ni3Al. That is not a carbide, not a nitrate, not a carbonitrate. It is a intermetallic compound between two metals, nickel and aluminium. That means dislocation moves and it will stop when it meets Ni3Al again. Right? So this is the aldehyde. So these are called precipitates actually. You can write these carbides, nitrides, carbonitrides. Carbonitrides means both carbon and nitrogen will be together. You understand my point? Both carbon and nitrogen will be present together means it is carbonitride. Simple. So these are nothing but what I told? Precipitates. These are precipitates. And the concept is called precipitation strengthening. Strengthening by precipitates. Right? It's called precipitation strengthening. And top one is what? Which kind of strength? Solid solution strengthening. Right? The top one is called solid solution strengthening. The bottom one is called precipitation strengthening. So very interesting. So now if your father will ask why we are using alloys, so you can explain him, right? We are adding alloying elements. These alloying elements either remain in solid solution or it may react with the parent metal to form a compound. And these compounds and solid solution will increase the strength of the material. Simple concept. It is okay? And this concept is based on strength theory. This concept is based on obstacle, just an obstacle. Right? Okay, this is fine. Shall I erase this one? And I can move to next. So one is I told single crystal, one is I told by giving heat treatment, one is by alloying. Anything else? Anybody remember? That is related to plastic deformation. You can increase the strength by doing plastic deformation.
Hammering?
That last part. Huh?
Hammering?
Sorry.
Hammering?
Hammering, yes, I told once. If you take a pure metal or alloy, you hammer it and you measure the strength again. Its strength will increase. Right? So you are doing hammering. So you are doing hammering means you are plastically deforming the metal. Right? That is permanent deformation. What happens? I told if you deform a metal plastically, what will happen in the material?
The grain size will reduce.
Dislocation will generate more and more. I told once, dislocation multiplies basically, right? So if you deform a metal more and more and more, if you remember the concept of strain hardening, I told. Strain hardening concept. You can check the stress versus strain curve and you can see after a yield point, the strength is increasing and it is reaching to a maximum value UTS. Why that is increasing? You can check. That is the concept of strain hardening. Hardening due to strain, and this strain is coming due to plastic deformation. Right? Simple concept. What exactly we are doing? We are deforming the metal. Right? The more you deform metal plastically, more will be the number of dislocations. Dislocation number will increase more and more and more. I told once now, suppose 10 number of people are here and they want to escape out from this door. They can easily escape out, right? But suppose 100 people are here and they want to escape out through this door. They cannot escape out easily. There is a problem, right? One will prevent the motion of another one. Right? You will push someone, he will push someone, like this will be happen. You cannot move easily. Same thing happens. If less number of dislocation will be there, it can easily move. There is no problem. But if you have a lot of dislocations now, then motion of dislocation will be not easy. One will stop the motion of another dislocation. So what will happen? Strength will increase. Because ultimately what we are doing, either we are eliminating all the defects or we are increasing the defects. This is another example of very good example. Like you are increasing number of grain boundaries, you are increasing the strength. Similarly, you can increase the number of dislocations in the material and strength will automatically increase. How this can be? So you can write this is what I told by plastic deformation. Or in other way, what I can say by doing we can do permanent deformation, right? It is okay. So what it do? You can write it increases dislocation density. Dislocation density increases. Okay. So strength is directly proportional to the number of dislocations. More is the dislocation, more is the strength automatically. There is a particular value actually, right? It doesn't mean you are increasing the dislocations and strength will increase. That is not the funda. Initially what happens, if you increase the dislocation, sleep will be more easy, right? Because they can easily move. But a time will come when dislocation will be very high, again the strength will increase, and this is the situation. It is okay now? So that means if you have a pure metals, how to increase the strength? So first what I told, you convert it into single crystal. Best. And the answer is, if it is a single crystal, there is no defect at all. Completely defect free thing. So it has maximum strength. Second one is you can do heat treatment on it. Right? Heat treatment will give you two benefits. Either you can do phase transformation, you can convert initial phase to some new phase, and that new phase should have high strength. Right? That is one part. And the part is you can reduce the grain size. If initial grain size is low, you make it finer, smaller grain size. Right? Third one I told, you can add alloying elements. Alloying elements have two roles. One, either it may form solid solution or it may form compounds. Right? If it is forming solid solutions, so strain field will generate, and that strain field will interact with the dislocation strain field, and dislocation cannot move easily. Right? And if you form a compound, it will form precipitates. Right? And precipitates are basically harder and stronger compared to the alloy. Right? So what will happen? Dislocation will stop in front of a precipitate. It cannot easily move. It's okay, these are things. And finally, the simple way is you can deform it plastically. Suppose while doing, you can do this experiment, simple experiment. You take a copper wire and you bend it, and you try to bend it again bend. You will finally see that where the bending have initiated, the next bending will not start at that position. It will start from a new position where there is no bending. You understand my point? The bending portion will get strain hardened. In that portion, number of dislocation density will be more. So again you try to bend it. The bending will not start at the initial bending position. It will start from the new position. You can do it at your home. This is a simple experiment. You can do it. You understood my point? So this concept is called, you have to remember, called strain hardening concept. This concept is called strain hardening. So strengthening by strain hardening. You can write that mechanism of strengthening is called strain hardening, or some people call dislocation strengthening, or some people call work hardening. These are the three terms: strain hardening, dislocation strengthening, or work hardening. Questions may be like this: what is work hardening? You have to explain it. Right? Work hardening means the name itself is you are doing some working. Right? You are doing some working, and due to that working, what is happening? Number of dislocation is increasing, and if the number of dislocation will be more, the motion of dislocation will be difficult. Simple. And dislocation strengthening means the strengthening is provided by dislocation itself. That's why the name is dislocation strengthening. You understood my point? And strain hardening. Strain hardening means if lot of dislocation will be there, lot of strain will be there also in the material. Why? Why lot of strain will be there in the material if number of dislocation will be high? Because each dislocation is having a strain field, I told now. Tension and compression. So if lot of dislocation will be there, so lot of tension and compression field will be there. Right? So there is a lot of strain in the material. So again strain field increase. Right? So this concept is called strain hardening, dislocation strengthening, or work hardening. See, another point, you should not be confused. Hardening and strengthening are same thing. Question may be like, what is work hardening or what is work strengthening? Same thing. Hardening, strengthening are same. You should not be confused. Right? And the grain boundary one you can write, that is called grain boundary strengthening. The grain that is called grain boundary strengthening. Strengthening due to grain refinement. Grain boundary strengthening. And some people call grain refinement. Strengthening due to grain refinement. These are the concepts. So finally, conclusion what I can draw? I can draw conclusion is mechanism. So strengthening mechanisms. So first I can write. Sorry. First I can write.
बस में देखा ही तो
and that is the done. Second one I can write. This is what? Okay, fine. And this is what? Anybody remember? This is, I can write. And anything else? And one is this is one. One thing I am missing, that is then complete transformation, precipitation, solid solution. Anything else? Something is missing, last one I can write. Single crystal. Is it okay? From all these kinds of strengthening, single crystal strengthening is it will provide maximum strength. You can write, by forming a single crystal we can achieve theoretical strength. You can write, by making the material single crystal, by making the material single crystal we can reach up to theoretical strength. Making a material into single crystal, we can reach up to theoretical strength. Theoretical strength means you understood that point. Anybody guess? Anybody can guess? Theoretical strength. That means the practical strength and theoretical strength will be different. Obviously, right? So the question may be, why there is a difference between practical strength and theoretical strength? Just tell me. Theoretical strength is the maximum strength attainable in a material, which is ideal condition.
Practical difference.
Because of defects.
Environment.
Because of defects. All the materials have defects. No, none of materials are free from defects. So if material will have no defects, it will give you maximum strength. That is called theoretical strength. That is possible, right? But automatically we have polycrystalline materials. Automatically we have grain boundaries. Defects comes. Automatically during solidification, dislocation forms. So already materials are having defects. So how we can reach theoretical strength? Right? You understand my point? So the materials we are using always contain defects. That is why strength is always less than the theoretical strength. Theoretical strength value is GPa level, gigapascal. 1000 megapascal becomes 1 gigapascal, you can understand. But actual strength or practical strength is how much? It is in MPa, megapascal. You remember. Theoretical strength value is gigapascal, but the real strength or actual strength is megapascal. The question may be like this: why the materials have a strength of megapascal? You can write because of defects. Right? So if somebody will ask, then how plastic deformation will happen in a single crystal? There is no dislocations. Obviously, no, there is no dislocations in a single crystal. These are defects written. No grain boundary, no dislocation, nothing, no defects, no stacking faults, nothing is there. So how the plastic deformation will happen? plane may glide on another atomic layer. That may happen, right? But it will require very high strength. You cannot move one atomic layer on another atomic layer. But if you have an extra half plane of atom, they can easily glide on a plane. You understand the point? An extra half of plane can easily move, but atoms cannot easily glide from one another easily, right? Okay, let me explain one point. Suppose this is one and suppose this is another plane. This is one plane. Suppose you have a dislocation. Suppose you have a dislocation here and it is moving. And you have a dislocation here, it is moving. Right? Just have a look. What will happen at time? In this atomic plane, orange atomic plane, a dislocation is moving. Extra half of plane atom is moving easily. On that plane also, an extra half of plane atom is moving. So what will happen at that point, at junction? They will interact. So when there is an interaction, they will stop. Right? So you understood. If lot of dislocation will be happening, this may happen. This situation may arise. And at this junction, they will stop. They cannot move easily. But if a dislocation is here, for example, anything happens, nothing will happen if this is not there, this is absent. What will happen? Dislocation can easily glide, this dislocation can glide, this dislocation also can glide easily. But if there is a junction, because I told lot of atomic planes are present, vertical, horizontal, and many planes will be there, and they are intersecting one another, so the dislocation will stop at that junction when they meet. That is called dislocation interaction. Right? So dislocation interaction will be expressed if lot of dislocation will be present automatically. Okay, and the concept, let me tell you, very interesting concept. So the concept is what happens if you have same sign dislocations moving towards each other, and what happens if you have opposite sign dislocations moving towards each other. Can you guess? You draw it otherwise. You just draw a plane. On a plane, you have same sign dislocation, like you have inverted T, for example. And another plane is there where you have one inverted T and another is T. So what will happen between the dislocations? How the interaction will be occurring? Just imagine what will be the situation.
Sir,
like this, for example. You are saying something?
सर अगर opposite
This is one plane, this is one plane. Suppose I have a dislocation like this, and I have another dislocation like this. This is one situation, and I have a dislocation like this here, and I have a dislocation like this. So they will interact. The question is how will be the interaction?
सर उसमें इंटरेक्शन स्टॉप हो जाएगा पहला वाला में।
पहले वाले
और
you have gone through the videos, I think. And how it will stop?
सर क्योंकि एक्स्ट्रा हाफ प्लेन ऑफ एटम अबव मतलब ऊपर में है और उसमें भी ऊपर में है, तो दोनों सामने आ जाएगा तो
They are in the same plane, for example. They are in the same plane. Use your mind. The hint lies behind the fields. Check the strain fields. Check the strain fields.
सर
Each dislocation has a strain field. I told. You have also seen what kind of strain fields are present. Okay, let me make it longer somehow. Check the strain fields. So this dislocation is on the top portion of the crystal, right? So if this is the top portion of the crystal, so this will be having some strain field here and some strain field here, right? Similarly, it has also a strain field and it has also a strain field, right? This is from the top, this is hanging from the top, right? So hanging from the top will be, that means top portion will be in the compression, bottom portion will be in the tension. Like this, if you remember. So this is a dislocation. Now you remember the point. This is a dislocation, extra half plane of atom. Right? Hanging from the top. This is your dislocation line. Right? So you can see this is extra. That means this is extra means this will push other planes. Yes or no? These are atomic planes. All are atomic planes. But this is extra. Extra always pushes other things. So it will push compression field will be. But something is missing here. Right? So atoms will come closer. So it will be creating what? Tension. So this is the tension field, this is the compression field. The same thing happens. So I am writing compression. This is all compression, and this is tension. So what will happen? Just imagine, same fields are present, right? Like if you put North Pole and South Pole together, they will attract. But if you keep North and North, they will repel. Same concept is applied. Same fields are present on the top and the bottom, same fields are there. So they will repel. So you can write, if you have same sign of dislocation in a plane, they will repel one another. There will be a repulsion. You people understood the point? This on the top both have same compression field. On the bottom, same tension field. So same field repels. Right? You understand the point? So that is the interaction. So same sign of dislocation interact like there will be repulsion. Can you guess then what happened to the bottom one? Bottom condition. Just suppose it. Just check it. So this will be a field and there is a field. There is a field and there is a field. So this is top part is what? This one is tension. This one is compression. And here, just suppose it, compression. And this is tension. So what will happen? Tension and compression, they attract. Right? कोई एक जगह पे कंप्रेशन है तो टेंशन आएगा तो क्या होगा? ऑब्वियस बात है कि उसको नलिफाई करेगा. राइट? कोई जगह पे कंप्रेशन है तो टेंशन आएगा तो नलिफाई करेगा. तो नीचे भी सेम होगा. नीचे compression and tension opposite, that also get nullified. So that's why they attracts, right? So opposite dislocation on a plane attracts, same side dislocations repels. That is the concept. Everybody understood? Right? Okay, suppose a condition is like this. Suppose two planes are there. Two parallel planes. On the top plane you have inverted T. Okay, let me draw it otherwise. It is easy. For example, suppose you have like this. You have like this and you have like this. What will happen at the end? Suppose it is moving from, okay, it is moving in this direction and it is moving in this direction. Obviously opposite field है तो attract होगा, right? And finally at the end क्या होगा? At the end what will happen? They will merge. Yes or no? Just check, they will merge. In the top one, extra half plane atom is hanging, right, like this. In the bottom, it is going up, right. So when they will meet, it becomes a single atomic plane now. So dislocation will get disappear. There will be no dislocation at the end. You are getting my point? ऊपर से एक एक्स्ट्रा हाफ प्लेन ऑफ एटम आ रहा है और नीचे से और एक एक्स्ट्रा हाफ प्लेन जा रहा है, तो एक जगह मीट कर जाएंगे, राइट. So it will become a single atomic plane. So where the extra half plane atom is there, there is no extra half plane of atom. So that is called annihilation of dislocation. Correct? Annihilation. Technically called annihilation of dislocation. Annihilation means dislocation is getting disappeared. So in other way I can say, if two dislocations have opposite sign, you can write if two dislocations have opposite sign and they are interacting. So what will happen first? There will be attraction force. That is the first condition. Then at the end what will happen? They will annihilate. They will get disappear. And how they will get disappear? By forming a single atomic plane. Very simple concept. Because the extra half plane atom will get disappear by forming a single atomic plane, right? Anybody remember the entire extra half plane atom is a defect, or the part of extra half plane atom is a defect? Part. But it is getting ended up, right? Okay, you can write one point I forgot to mention. That is, when vacancy is created, you can write, when vacancy is created, the atoms may also moves to the dislocation core. The atoms also moves to the dislocation core. So atom can move to the surface, to the, what I told, if you remember, when vacancy is generated, atoms will come out from the lattice point, it will move to the surface, or it will move to the grain boundary, or it will move to the dislocation core. What is the dislocation core now? Can anybody guess? I have drawn a diagram of dislocation. Can you guess what is the dislocation core? The tunnel part. Let's say which one is the tunnel part. Where dislocation is getting ended up, there is a space. So an atom can go and sit over there. You understand my point? So if an atom is missing from a lattice point, it may either go to the surface, or it may go to the grain boundary, or it may go to the dislocation core, the tunnel. Right? Like this. So this is the dislocation core, right? You understand what? Because atom, a lot of space is available. An atom can sit. Right? Just imagine, if atoms will be get added up, what will happen finally? What happened to the dislocation? Dislocation is climbing down, or not? If you add one more atom at the point, at the end, what will happen? You add another atom like this. So it is like dislocation is climbing down. You understand the point? Very interesting. I told dislocation can move either by glide. If it is moving in the same plane, it glides. If it goes up to the next parallel plane, it is climb, or it may go to the bottom plane. It is also climb, or dislocation can cross plane. Right? But this is an edge dislocation. It cannot cross plane. It can only glide, or it can climb. Right? So I am adding one more atoms here, for example. Because this is one atom, this is one atom, this is one atom. This part is missing. Missing half plane of atom. One atom will come from here, for example, it is going here. So it will be a vacancy now, but this is an atom. You understand the point? A vacancy will generate here, but this atom is going here, right? So you are adding one atom. That means it is like your dislocation moving down. Right? You add more atoms from here, for example. It is climbing down. So now can you guess how climbing up will be there? Just imagine. You have to remove one atom from the extra half of plane of atom, right? You understand my point? You just suppose initially this is like this. This is extra half. You remove one atom. This atom may go somewhere, anywhere. So a vacancy will create. That means this dislocation is moving up. You remove another one. Another plane it moves. Because these are also atomic planes. You are getting my point? These are also atomic planes. So simple concept is how to justify whether dislocation is climbing up or dislocation is climbing down. If you add an atom to the extra half a plane of atom, dislocation is climbing down. But condition applied. Dislocation is present up or in the bottom of the system. Right? You understand my point? If dislocation extra half a plane atom is on the top and you are adding an atom over there, right? That means dislocation is climbing down. You add more atoms, again it will climb down. You add more atoms, it will climb down. But if you remove atoms from there, you put a vacancy, then it climbs up, up and up. So in this way, dislocation climb up and down. And glides, you understand, it simply glide on the same thing. The application of stress. Right? Which stress is required to move a dislocation? Tensile or
Shear.
compressive or shear?
Shear.
Shear, you have to remember. But exactly we are applying this kind of shear, a stress, tensile stress. We apply tensile stress, but shear stress generates on the planes because of what? Because of what? What we are saying? You are resolving the stress. Horizontal component, vertical component. We are resolving a stress. Like you resolve forces in the mechanics, right? So you can also resolve the stress and it will be giving you some shear stress. Right? Okay, fine. I'll end this topic over here. Any doubt you have?